In this video, I want to show you how you can actually make use of the new feature for the thermal optics. So as you can see here currently, I can see this guy just fine. He illuminates, or well, basically you can see the body heat. However, if you're familiar with how thermals work, glass does not allow the heat. You'd barely be able to see the heat through it, because think about it, there's a blocker here. So how are you going to tell how hot something is that's on the other side of the blocker? You're not. You're just going to see how hot whatever this blocker is. So when we look at glass, as you can see, it completely now blocks the thermal view. So you're no longer actually able to see whatever you have set to hot through it. So that's what we're going to go ahead and show you how to set up. It's very simple. You just have to make a couple small changes. So the first one being you're going to go to Settings, Project Settings, and up here in the details, if you search for Stencil, you will see Custom Depth Stencil Pass. Now, by default, I think this is enabled. You want to set this one to Enabled with Stencil. Then once that is done, let's say you've already created your glass object and all that kind of stuff. Well, under Assets, then Materials, here you can see I have this M_World Glass Master Material. Now, this one's just kind of more or less an example, but you can use it off this if you want to. It's just a simple material. It's set to translucent. The only difference is if we go to Search Details and search for Depth, it has Allow Custom Depth Rights enabled. And if we go to Clip, we see Opacity Mask Clip Value is dropped down to 0.01. So the reason for this is this will work for any opacity value that is above, or actually I think equal to or above 0.01. So if I were to change this opacity value to 0.001 instead, then this feature will not work. So basically it's just reduced how low it has to be for it to actually be able to, I guess you could say, block it. So this allows you to have completely translucent things that can still block thermals. It's just kind of one of those, I guess you could say, nice to haves just in case. But anyways, that's all you have to do to your material, or you can just use my master material. Next up, the last thing we have to do is go to Details, and if we go to our mesh, whichever one you want to have be the blocker, we want to search for Depth. Here, we want to enable Render Custom Depth Pass, and we want to set the Custom Depth Stencil value to equal 1. And that's all you have to do for thermals. Alright, so next up is getting the IR laser to only show up under the example night vision. So here you can see I turn night vision off. You cannot see the laser. I turn it back on. You can see the laser. So the way that this is set up is, let's actually head to the IR laser. We go to the laser mesh. We can go ahead and do the same thing and search for depth. So again, you want to set the render custom path or custom depth path to enabled, except this time you want to set the custom depth stencil value to 2, because the way the post-process material reads it, it is using the second value, not the first. Alrighty, now back in the master material for the IR laser. This one, again, you can just use it as an example. So this can actually be, that's no longer needed, it can be ignored. But basically, it's the exact same thing that we did with the glass. So what we want to do is search for depth, make sure allow custom depth rights is on, and then again, lower the clip plane or the opacity mask clip value down to something very small. So here you can see I'm using value 0.002. And here I have the clip value set to 0.001, so just a hair smaller. The reason I did that is because if I go ahead and set this to something like 0.005 even, you can just barely make out any sort of hue. So I just wanted it to be, completely invisible no matter what you do, no matter how high or how bright you try to make it. It's always going to be invisible. So then once that's done, what we can do is I'll just head back over here, go back night vision on, I'll turn on the flashlight, and there we go. So now when I turn night vision off, as you can see, there is no laser until I turn the night vision back on, and I can turn the laser off and on either way. So that pretty much wraps up the thermals and the new, I guess you could say, infrared light, and just kind of how we can set them up to be handled if you want to make your own material. But really, the only changes, again, that you have to make are in the project settings, where you set it to use the, basically enable the stencil. you have to alter you have to set the stencil value to 1 or 2, depending on if you want thermal or night vision blocker. And then the last thing is, again, the settings in the material itself. So as you just saw, there are plenty of reference materials here that you can use, or just use them as your master materials. And that's pretty much it. That's all you got to do. So if you're interested in this plugin, a link is down to it in the description below. And if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to join my Discord server that is also linked down below, and I'll try to help you out. So I'll see you in the next video.